Hello and a very warm welcome to another session of The Change Exchange. My guest for this one, Lisa Raleigh. You're a wellness expert and, well, also a media personality with a huge social media presence. How did you get into fitness and wellness and all that?
Well, Ruda, I think I've always had this destined for my life. I started out as a ballerina and a gymnast when I was growing up. And I was actually a private boarder, which means that you don't stay in the boarding establishment, you stay with families. And the reason being is because the boarding establishment couldn't really alter the bus schedules and things for my weird schedule. You know, early morning training, late night training. They didn't have buses at that time of day. So I actually stayed with the gymnastics family. And in the first holidays of that, I think it was the second term that I was with them, the dad actually passed away reffing a soccer game, and he was in his early 40s. So I no longer could go back to that grieving family after that holiday. I had to find another family. And so that started my journey with staying with 5 different families over a period of 2.5 years.
This was high school?
High school, yeah. So I kind of fell in love with people and what made a family tick and the different EQs within a family and the different dimensions and just relationships. And I had to really I had to evolve and mold myself to fit in all the time with them, and also just.
That's incredibly difficult for a teenager.
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult for everyone.
I was a very organized little OCD type personality. I was a gymnast, ballerina, so everything is very controlled. Everything is very disciplined. I watch what I ate. I exercised a lot. Sleep and homework was up to me. Making my own school lunches, getting to school because my parents lived in a different city, and so I became really disciplined really early on in life. And I loved fitness, nutrition, exercise, discipline, sleep, and I loved that about what I was doing with my sporting career. And I was really good at that stage. I was like an SA gymnast, so it was part of who I was, is this discipline type of little soul. And then at the same time, living with all these families, I realized how much I loved people, how I was intrigued by them. So when I finished school, I thought, well, I'd love to study something to do with people and something to do with fitness and wellness and lifestyle. So I studied to become a personal trainer, and this was 15 years ago. And it wasn't as popular as it is today. And I studied it, and then straight after that, I went to Wales. And at the time, I dated a rugby player who got chosen to go and play for Wales. So I followed him, and that's kind of where my journey started. But I always knew, right from, I'd say, grade 9, they call it now, standard, 7, that I wanted to work with people, and I wanted to work in the nutrition and fitness and discipline space.
So what did you do when you lived in Wales?
I worked in gyms. Yeah, different gyms, they call them motivators. So I got a lot of experience working on the floor, personal training programs, fitness classes, nutrition plans, and after that I studied many different courses and diplomas after that to kind of enrich my CV. But even before that, going back to when I was 5, 6, 7, my mom told me that all of my dolls were sick. So when I'd come home from school, I had all of them lying down in their own little beds. And I walked into my room and I said, "Oh, how are you, Molly? How are you feeling today?" Took her temperature and gave her medicine and changed her nappy. And so I was always in the caring kind of realm. And I definitely wanted to care for others in some way or form. And I'm glad that I didn't become a nurse, that it's more in the preventative role as opposed to a bit too late, But I think I've always loved people, cared for them, worried about them, and wanted to help in some way.
You had your big break, really, when you were one of the trainers for The Biggest Loser. What was it called?
The Biggest Loser.
The Biggest Loser.
Yeah,
South Africa.
Awesome.
How does one motivate people to make that kind of radical change in lifestyle?
It was an intense time of my life. I remember getting through all the interviews and then getting that phone call to say, we've chosen you as the female trainer for South Africa, and my life changed at that moment, because before then I was focusing a lot more on the fitness side of things. I had 3 gyms, things were going really, really well. I had like 50 to 70 clients in a day. I had to remember all their names, what kids' names, their birthdays. I mean, it was an intense but busy and fulfilling career.
You mean my trainer does not really care?
No, I did. And it was actually too much so. At the end of the day, I used to do this ritual. I used to shower off everybody's problems because I felt overloaded by their burdens sometimes and what I'd heard in my day. People tell you a lot, and they they kind of confide in you as much as they would their best friend or their psychologist. I had a huge role. Yeah, and I just thought, this is too much. I need to wash it off. But it was a very, very special time in my life where things progressed from being a personal trainer where I could only really help, and a business owner, because at that stage I had many trainers working for me, and I had 3 different gym locations, and things were going well. Business was thriving, and this was, again, about 8 or 9 years ago, before there were so many options out there. And my gym was one of the first private gyms in KZN, in Durban, where I grew up and started out. But that big break was amazing for me, because I always felt quite frustrated by only being able to help those people in my gym. And I felt like I needed to reach more. I needed to help more than just the couple hundred people that I saw every week. And so that really helped me. It catapulted me into the media. The 7 contestants that I was given, my blue team, stretched me and made me cry more than I've cried in my whole life. They opened up my eyes because their stories are so deep. There's always a reason why somebody is so grotesquely overweight. They don't just get overweight and then are happy with it. There's always a reason. And all 7 of my contestants were different races from different parts of South Africa. They had different issues and different reasons as to why they were overweight, whether it was rape, it could have been abuse, it was divorce and trauma in the home. And those specific people decided to choose food as their refuge and to fill that massive void in their lives. So I heard all the stories, and I saw how much they tried, and I saw how much they wanted it, and how much they sacrificed, and how much we trained, and how little they had to eat, and how sore they were, and how much we pushed them. Sometimes we trained them through the night on the beach in the rain with black bags all over, so they would sweat a little bit more, and they'd jump on that scale, and the producers would jump up and down because there were these radical weight losses, which is of course what we have to do for TV. It's pretty impractical and not sustainable, but it makes for good TV. And I bled with them. I felt everything with them, and I was a changed person after filming that show, like completely changed. And I realized just how much went into changing your life, and not just exercise more, eat less. It's way more complex and intricate than that.
So what is the trigger? Because so many people will say, I've tried all my life, I just cannot do it.
To be honest, readiness is very, very important. Mindset. You've got to determine what it is and what it is that's holding you back, and why do you want to change? Like, for everybody,
and do you really care enough?
Exactly. There's got to be that penny dropping moment, that epiphany moment where it's this far, no further. And for all of my success stories, there was always that moment, always, where somebody would say, this happened to me, and that was the moment I realized I can't be this big or this unhealthy anymore. And I like to wait till that point, not when somebody has dragged them in my door, or a husband has sent them and said, I'll pay whatever, I need my wife back, or the doctor said, you've got high cholesterol, you better sort it out. It has to come from that individual.
It's almost like an addict. He or she has to first realize that this is what it is.
Yeah, so you've got first, self-actualization is the first thing, and then being ready, because I've tried many times with clients who just aren't emotionally ready to make that commitment, because it's hard. And when you do it right, it's even harder. It takes longer. The sacrifices are huge. The results are sometimes slower than anticipated. You've got to have your mind right. And that is the key to any success story. It's like, how badly do you want it and why?
You've also now, since then, worked on television. You've been on Expresso. You had a show with your first husband.
Yes.
What was that called?
Doctor's
Orders.
Yeah, he wasn't my husband, Dr. Mole, but...
Oh, sorry. I got that mixed up. Sorry.
It's cool. But we were good colleagues, good friends. Yeah. So Doctor's Orders was one of the shows, also produced by the same company. And then
so how did you experience it? You're not just an expert on the show, you now have to be the host and the presenter.
I loved it, to be honest. I love television because for me it's a medium in which you can touch thousands and sometimes millions.
And does it come naturally to work with the camera?
Yeah, very much so. I prefer to be myself. I could never be an actress. So any scouts out there, it's not going to happen. I can only be myself. And that is what I find difficult when you have to memorize lines verbatim. Like, my worst things are opening and closing links, because I have to say something in a way that somebody else has scripted for me, whereas I much prefer to be conversational, light, myself, educational, inspirational in my own way. I find that it's more believable and people can kind of identify with me on that level, as opposed to being this TV presenter where everything is a little bit more on the fake side and I'm just not relatable, and I find that it's not me.
You've also started your own production company. What do you want to achieve?
My goal is to have my own show. So we're working on a few collaborations, some international and some locally. The hardest part really is to find a platform and a medium. Do we go online like you are and have great results and traction that way with lots of social media backing and a good sponsor, or do you decide to go on a more more popular traditional platform like our normal TV? But then it's some people say TV is kind of dying. So it's just what medium to go on, number one, and what message. And I think the big thing for me is now that I'm a mom, my message has changed slightly. So I was going to do it last year, and now I've kind of prolonged a little bit to figure out who I am now that I'm a mom. So I'm not just in the wellness game and TV and all that cool stuff, but now I'm a mom too, and that's changed my whole life. So it's just creating this new identity for myself, which I'm just slowly starting to figure out. And then the minute I've got it figured out, we're going to obviously go forward with our plans and proposals to develop my own wellness television show.
Oh, well, good luck in
Thank
between. What's the role of digital media in helping to motivate people who want to do this?
Well, it's become everything.
Yeah.
To be honest, anybody can actually become an internet sensation and a celebrity. Not necessarily overnight, but within a year, somebody can go from 0 followers to having 5.2 million, if you really want to. And it's all about being authentic and the message that you're trying to portray and the story you're trying to tell. And the Instagram accounts, the YouTube accounts that are doing really well are those where they're raw and where they're believable and when they could actually relate to the layman, relate to others that are going through a similar story and that are facing similar problems. So it's huge because anybody can tell their story and anybody can help somebody else that's in a similar position. So it's powerful, very powerful, as long as it's authentic. And that's been a big learning curve for us in my company. It's not just about sponsors and about money, and it's about exercise programs and eating plans and all those kinds of things, which kind of like anybody can do really if you've got the right studies behind you. It's about what more you're going to do, what extra value you're going to add, and how authentic are you going to be, and what story you're going to tell, and how are you going to help people and why. It's more about that than just about the facts, because you can get those facts online anyway, actually.
So what is it that reaches through, that actually touches people? Real stories?
Real stories, always. Real life stories. People like success stories. They like that 0 to hero kind of story, hardships and people being real. Like, keep it real, people. Like if you do that, you're going to have success as long as it's authentically real. And as long as you are a victor at the end, people don't want to watch something that's sad, something that's demotivating, something that makes them feel worse. You want to get onto a platform, and after watching something for 5 to 10 minutes, you want to feel elated and motivated and inspired. And that really is the key to what we're doing at the moment, which is creating a lot of content for our own brand as well as other brands that we're collaborating with, is how do we make people feel better? How do we inspire and motivate somebody to want to create that change? And then not actually just want to, but actually do it and be successful.
You've also written 2 books. The first one with Darren Scott,
yes,
Fries on Us.
Yes.
And now is the second one...
well, it's not quite launched yet. So it's not quite. It'll be launched in March 2018. It's
a belly book.
It's called The Belly Book, yes. And that is my most frequently asked question, right, is how do I get rid of my jelly belly? Whether it's an adult male and he's got a bit of a boop, a real South African boop, or whether it's a mom that's obviously had 1 or 2 kids and really is suffering from all the loose skin and what happens to one's tummy after having a baby, or just generally from sitting too much, from being sedentary and just not working those muscles adequately. A lot of people have some form of jelly belly. Most people, I'd say 95%. You very seldom will find somebody with a beautiful, toned, svelte, tight stomach that, really...
especially if you're older than 18 and a half.
Exactly. And it's not only about the outside and the aesthetic appeal, but it's also what's going on in the inside and your gut health and your digestion. And there's so much that's not really spoken about, and it's quite taboo. You don't go to a dinner table and speak about your digestive habits. Just yesterday we were shooting an episode about Digestion 101 and things that people really need to know. It is really the core of our essence of our well-being, is how we absorb nutrients and how our digestive system works. And people don't place enough emphasis on it. They're happy to speak about sleep and skincare routine and exercise, nutrition, but hang on, what about our digestion? It all starts there and ends there. So that's kind of in a nutshell.
And the first one, No Fries on
No
Us?
Fries on Us was, so speaking about the belly book, I kind of stopped myself too soon, but it's an inspirational type book. So we have all the different chapters, and we have, your exercise kind of videos and your recipes and your eating plans, but we speak a lot about the other factors. So that is sleep deprivation and just getting your sleep right, stress management, emotional well-being, your DNA and genetics, because all of that plays a role. You can't just say to somebody, well, you eat too much and you need to move a little bit more. Same thing. Everyone just thinks it's that simple. But if you really, really want a nice toned tummy, whether it's a six-pack, cool, but if you just want to have a nice flat tummy, then you've got to look at all the other holistic factors. And we go into detail there. And what we're going to do is we're going to throw it from being offline in a hard copy format to online. So right throughout the book, you can actually scan the little QR codes throughout, and that takes you from a recipe to me online in the kitchen cooking that recipe. The exercise and sort of workout for that day, you scan the QR code and it takes you online to me actually performing the exercise and teaching you and guiding you through that exercise. So it'll be one of the first times that we've gone from
really
a hard copy
multimedia.
online, because it's fun and people want to see the book come alive. They can use it, not use it, but the idea is that we are really educating people, because I love to teach people how to fish and not just say, eat this, train like this. You've got to teach people how to look after themselves long term. And without me holding your hand, once you've read this book, what are you going to do? You have to educate them enough.
Do you think that South Africans are becoming more aware of that?
Definitely. I've seen a huge trend. I mean, I've been in this industry since I was 17, 18, and I'm quite a lot older than that now. But most definitely, there's a huge trend to being well. In fact, people look down on people that don't look after themselves. It's very unusual to find somebody now eating a packet of crisps and drinking a Coke and to say, oh, cool, and eating takeaways and things. It is definitely becoming hip and happening and respected to look after one's health, that you make the effort, because it is an effort. It is actually more of an effort to be healthy than to be lazy and eat out and get takeaways and just not respect your health. I know for a fact that I only employ people that are healthy. And if they're not healthy, if they need some work, I'll help them. I'll make it my mission, really, to make an effort with them and to improve their productivity and to make sure that they are, singing our brand song. That's very, very important to me. But I've seen a huge increase from just being fit and people going to personal training gyms to people that are eating out at raw bars and having a smoothie every day and buying the right appliances for home and actually investing in home gym equipment, taking their smoothies and shakes and supplements and vitamins, not just to be cut and huge, but to actually live the best life that they can live.
What do you want to achieve in your career?
Sure, there's quite a few things. As I said before, I would love to have my own show that's ongoing. That's kind of like your story. You were ongoing for many years in television. I would love to have my own show, and I only feel qualified now, and that feels a little strange, but I've been a guest on many shows in the past, and I felt qualified to do that. And now that I'm a mom, and now that I've had a lot of change in my life and a lot of evolution, I feel like I could host my own show and do it justice. Only now that I'm in my 30s and I've become a parent, I feel, okay, I can now add more value. So I think the time is now. Definitely on the book front is to launch a book once a year together with an ebook and recipe book. And we're working a lot on online programs to guide people that are obviously computer literate to transform their lives with the click of a button. They can sign up for my program and they can transform their lives with my guidance, inspiration, motivation, and techniques. So yeah, I mean, I've got a lot to read. I feel like my career's just started and constantly a balancing act between being a good mom and spending enough time with my daughter Bella and being a good wife as well and keeping the balance at home and in work. So there's been a huge shift around how I do that,
You were married for 5 years when you were much younger. What did you learn out of that?
Well, I feel, often when I look back to that time of my life, I feel that it was a different person marrying somebody else, because I feel like I've grown so much over the last 7 to 8 years. I really do. I look at it and I think, I can't believe I was actually married before. I learned...
What do you do differently now in your relationship?
Wow, I mean, I was a young girl when I got proposed to first and when I got married, and I just don't think I thought it through as much as I should have. The one big thing that I changed is that I got engaged very quickly the first time. I got engaged after 3 months of knowing my ex-husband and married within 8 months. It was very fast. And then I got to know my husband. and it didn't work out. And this time round, I actually knew my new husband, Stafford, for many years. I've known him for 6 years. 2 months ago, I've known him for 6 years, and we dated. We were friends for the first 3, and then we dated for about 2.5 years, and then I only said yes. When he proposed, I said yes. And I feel like, and then by the way, we did a lot of work. We went through a lot of therapy, and because he and I are very strong-willed people, we lived in different cities, both of us divorced. He had 2 kids already, my 2 stepdaughters now, different races, and he's almost a decade older than me. So we had a lot of stuff, and also the older you are when you get married, the more baggage you have for sure, the more stuff you have. So we saw an amazing lady, and not that we needed like therapy, but we just wanted to get it right this time, because both of us didn't want to get married a 3rd time, and this had to be forever. So we invested a lot.
But it's also, what I'm hearing is that you were actually aware of what you were doing.
Yes.
When one is so young, it's just the next step, and that's the natural thing to do, and oh, something's wrong.
Exactly. We did. Our therapist says, we had the marriage before the wedding. That's kind of how it felt, because when we got married on that day, it was just like sealing the deal. We had already done the work, and we knew each other inside out, back to front. We knew our stuff. I knew the worst part of him, and still wanted to marry him. And
what
vice
makes
versa.
it work? What draws you to him?
So many things. I'm very attracted to him, so I think that's very, very important. I have a huge amount of respect for him. He's such a smart guy, a successful guy, cool, but he's very, very smart and very kind. And for me, kindness is everything. Like, it's been my biggest personality delimiter, is like, how kind are you, and how much do you do for others? And he is an incredible man for many reasons, but his kindness is paramount, and I love it. And you've got to be attracted to the person, because that's that butterfly feeling. I still get that when he walks into the room 6 years later. He's an amazing hubby and a really, really good dad to our daughter.
And his 2 daughters, how did you manage that relationship?
You know what I decided early on was
they
that
are teenagers.
They're teenagers, Bethany is actually going to be 17 in December, and Amber will be 14. So they are already in their teens. I met them when Amber was turning 10 and Bethany was turning 13. So I've known them for a few years now. In fact, they knew me before I knew them, because they had seen me on TV. And I remember watching a little video of Amber when she was 6 years old, or 5 years old, I think. And she was mocking me. She was pretending. And I only saw this, I think it was last year or the year before, and they found it on one of their old laptops, saying, Lisa, come and look at this. And there she was, as this little thing, pretending to cough, telling the audience that smoking is so bad for you, and like actually imitating me. And I just thought, this is crazy. She knew me before I knew her. So obviously that was always meant to be my path, was this little girl was meant to be my stepdaughter. So
did that help when they met you, that they felt that?
No, it actually didn't, because I think they haven't said it to me, but Steph and I have discussed it, Stafford, that they felt a little bit overwhelmed and intimidated, that this girl that's on TV, is now, she's in our lounge, like, what do we do? For me, it's never been like that. I'm totally fine with being in my PJs, no makeup on with them, totally natural. They were my bridesmaids at our wedding last year, and we went on honeymoon with them. So we were away for a month, and my 2 stepdaughters actually shared our honeymoon, which I think is very special, and it was a bonding experience. But I've decided to not be a mother figure in their lives, because they have a great mom. She's done a great job, and so has Steph. Even though they've had moms that have been parents that have been independent and not married, they've just done a sterling job. So instead of me trying to be another mom, I would just rather be their friend.
So is that your advice for someone? I mean, so many people are in this situation.
Yeah, I think that for every family, I think it's a little bit different. But for me, I sussed it out quite early on. Number one, I'm also quite young. So to have, teenage daughters, and I'm only in my early 30s, I feel like I understand them, because I feel like I was like that age just the other day.
Yes.
I wasn't, I'm obviously not, but I feel like that. So for me to be this hectic mom figure of teenagers, it just didn't feel right to me. I decided to be authentic to who I was, and just to say, listen, I'm there for you no matter what. You can talk to me about anything, and if you don't want me to tell your dad, I won't tell him. I'll give you the best advice. But I want us to be friends. I want us to have fun, and I want you to let your hair down with me and be natural. And, your mom can do the disciplinarian type stuff, and your dad can, but I'm like that other person that you get to tell stuff that maybe you would never tell your mom or dad, because I won't judge you, So I've just played that role, and it's worked. And we're quite close, and they've got a little half-sister. you know, so that also sort of bonds our whole family together now that there's a little bit more blood in the mix. And
how did Bella Sky change your view, your life?
You know what? She wasn't planned, so let's just start there. She really, really wasn't planned.
And this is a fitness expert?
Oh, yes, an A-type personality that has everything kind of sorted out way in advance. And here I am only finding out that I was pregnant at 11 weeks. So it was quite far along, and I got the shock of my life. And I'm not going to lie, I wasn't happy in the beginning. I was shocked. I was, now what am I going to do with my career? Because I've got all these sponsors to please, and I've got lots of things on the go and lots of commitments, and now I'm going to be big and fat, and a panic station, you know. And only probably in the last 2 months have I felt at ease with the fact that I now call myself a mom, that I actually am this little girl's mom. And a lot came down to my mindset. And when I gave birth to her, it was a very traumatic experience. It was literally an emergency C-section the day before they told me tomorrow morning she's coming out. I had last-minute preeclampsia, but severe. All my organs were failing. I had protein in my urine, and my blood pressure was sky high. My platelet count was really, really, really bad. My blood was so thin, I wasn't clotting. So they were very worried about me actually surviving the operation. And I couldn't believe it. From 2 days before being on our farm and just being happy and free and all good, to listen, we need to take her out, and there is a chance that one or the other may not make it. So that was traumatic. And afterwards, for a couple of weeks after that, I was all over the show emotionally because I didn't get my head around it. And I like to do that. I like to do some mental preparation and some visualization and some reading and research. I didn't get any time for that. So it took me off guard. That was the first thing. And then the other thing was, there's just so many hormones in your body once you give birth. And I definitely suffered from postnatal depression. And I think a lot of people with A-type personalities, high achievers, people that put a lot of pressure on themselves, suffer from postnatal depression, and we don't talk about it enough. And that's something that I would love to unearth a little bit more in the motherhood community that I've started, is this whole PND and how much depression plays a role with bonding with your baby soon after. I can honestly say, as she came out and as she was lying there, I didn't love her. I actually grew in love with her over the months, and that was worrying me, where I thought, I don't love this child. I care for her immensely, that she's mine, and I worry about her, but this love that moms talk about, I don't have that. And I was very worried about it, and I felt totally detached from her from the day that she was born. As cute and amazing as she was, I just felt something was off. And then coupled with sleep deprivation of note, I didn't get proper sleep for 6 months until I got a sleep trainer in. She just wasn't a great sleeper. I felt like somebody else. I was puffy, and I was so tired. My head was thick. I was moody. I was not eating correctly.
How did Stafford handle this?
He was great. He was worried, because what happened to my wife? I married. He was worried, but very supportive. In fact, he jumped right in. He came down to Durban for 3 months, and kind of his whole company kind of put it on hold for a while, because he could see this is his new baby and his wife suffering and needs his support. And he was amazing. I can't fault him at all. Probably too annoying, because in the beginning it's about mom and baby, and when you've got a hubby that wants to be there, wants to do night shift, wants to help, it's like you actually need your space to figure it out, because to have that pressure, you're trying to get you try to sort out the breastfeeding, you try to sort out my career. I only took a month leave. So in the second month, I was already behind my laptop. I was already starting to do the odd meeting. And that's something I would do differently the second time round, is I'd give myself the 6 months that I needed to bond with Bella. And
How did you get out of it? Just gradually?
Sleep
or did something...
was the ultimate. So I heard about the sleep trainer who I flew up from Cape Town. She came and she lived in our home for 2 days, and she was ruthless. She was hectic. And it was a hard 2 days. And then after that, the whole thing was so stressful. Bella actually got sick. She got a baby measles. Her immune system was low. She picked it up from some kind of a mummy club that we take them to, and she got really sick, and that we kind of took a step backwards for about 10 days, and then it started coming right, because we just applied the rules, the principles that she had taught us. And within 3 weeks, Bella was sleeping through the night. From waking up 3 to 6 times a night, every night. And I was breastfeeding every single time. So I was breastfeeding sometimes 18 times a day, and working. And the pressure of keeping my business together, because I'm a business owner with staff, and So, and the sleep changed everything. The minute I started getting 7 to 8 hour 7,
Decent
8 hour,
sleep.
nights of hours of sleep, my whole life changed. You know, the fog started lifting out of my brain. I could start exercising again. My cravings sort of subsided, and I could start eating healthy again. Started getting back into the kitchen.
So, out of this, what did you learn? What will you tell the next young mum? Don't try and control everything. Accept that things may not be the way you think it should.
Definitely. I mean, right from the get-go, as I said, Bella wasn't planned. So my whole kind of like ethos of everything being perfect was thrown out the window right from the start. And I think that's what I've decided to do, is to take a deep breath and to just... I have my non-negotiables that I need to do in the week, you know, so as long as those things are done, how and when they're done is what's flexible, and that gives me a lot of peace of mind. So I do have my checklists, and I do have, like anyone, a business to run and bills to pay and staff to oversee, and I have stuff to do. But instead of saying it has to be done here and in this way, and I just am more flexible with myself. So I give myself a bit of a break. And I try and go to the mommy clubs and the orientation class, the stimulation classes with Bella, and I try to be involved, and I tick those sort of times out of my diary, so I'm a present mom. And then in between that, I figure out work. And like at the moment, what's working for me is early nights, and I get up earlier than the whole house, and I have sort of 90 minutes to myself. That's my quiet time. Everybody, even the dog, is fast asleep, and that seems to work for me now. In a month's time, something else might work better for me. And so I've just decided to try and park my A-type personality, because that does not serve me in motherhood, and just to ease up a little bit, and just to try and enjoy the process, because very easily we can get bogged down with the seriousness of everything, instead of just saying, hang on a second, you know, I have a child, I have a home, I have a family, I'm lucky, I'm blessed, and just go with it, breathe, and just chill. And that's been kind of my mantra.
Joy. It's not just a pain.
Yeah, this is my life. You know, this is awesome.
To get through.
Yeah. So
You've moved also recently, which is another huge change in one's life. Durban, Johannesburg?
Yeah, I'm a KZN girl through and through, but Joburg has been calling my name for many, many years. I am meant to be up here. I love the fast-paced life. Joburg has got a lot of charm and a lot of soul, and the people up here are incredibly friendly. I'm finding it very easy to meet new people and to make new friendships. Luckily, I have worked up here a lot in the last couple of years, so I've built some good networks on a business front, and you know, with collaborations, everything's cool there, but it's my personal life that I needed to invest in and create kind of new bonds and friendships. But I'm actually enjoying it. But you know what? I decided that I was going to enjoy it. And I think that's what's important, is I made the decision very hard to move from my hometown where I knew everybody and I had my whole support structures in KZN. But because of my hubby being up here and our two step-girls being up here, that's where my family is, and that's where I need to be. And we all need to be together. And as long as we're together, we can get through anything. So that was my mindset, and I said, I'm going to love it. So now I have to find ways to love it.
Did you move into his house, or did you buy something together?
We actually got a new house. So within...
What did you go looking for?
We wanted to stay in the little area that we live in now, which is Parkhurst. And I love it because it's a little bit arty. We can walk the streets and have a coffee. And both of us love food. So we love to eat out a lot. And we love to walk the streets and shop. And we love the community where I can take Bella for a run. We both exercise a lot and we go running with our dog, Harley and Bella. So I needed something where my au pair or myself could walk her as safely as possible. Where everything was pretty close by and it was community driven. So I love Parkhurst. I don't know if I could live anywhere else in Joburg. It seems like Durban in Joburg, if you know what I mean. It's like a little tiny Durban inside Joburg, and I feel really comfortable in Parkhurst. So you were saying, you know, I moved, but the house we were looking for just needed more space. We actually moved from, and this is quite weird because for about 2 years I've been seeing numbers 1111. And there's this whole like philosophy behind why you see 1111. It's all about your soulmate and your twin flame and about the angels giving you these messages and all this stuff, okay? But we moved from 11th Street to another house in 11th Street. So I just thought, wow, that it must be it, you know? Yeah. But we went looking around and we found this house.
Feels right.
And it feels right, yeah. And it's beautiful for shooting and it's got big windows and lots of air. And I absolutely love our home. We still to finish decorating it because that takes time and energy, and you know, I've got to get on my artistic hat, but it's a lovely creative project. So yeah, in 1 year I literally found out I was pregnant. I got married, went overseas to get married and to have a honeymoon, had a baby, moved cities and moved home in 12 months. And I think, wow, I survived that year. I'm sure I could do anything after that. But it's been an amazing journey. It's been a hell of a year. Ups and downs, boy. Ups and downs. But overall, I made it. And I can look back now saying, connecting the dots backwards, as Steve Jobs would say. And I've definitely become a stronger and better person for it.
So how does one handle change?
Sure. How does one handle change? I think it's all got to do...
Think of the last year for yourself. How did you get through that?
Piecemeal, one little tiny bite at a time. Hey, I think if I had to have told myself December 2015 that I would have to do all of this in 12 months, I don't know if I would have done it. So I think that you do just the next thing, just the next thing, just the next thing, as positively and happily and as you can, just as positively as you can, and you'll get there. And when you look back, that's only when you'll be like, wow, I can't believe that I achieved all of this in 1 year. But I definitely don't look too far ahead. I know you've got to plan some things like finances and things like that you've got to be careful with. But I think just generally in life, don't plan everything too far in advance, because it does throw you curveballs, but they're for a reason, and they're there to grow you, stretch you, and keep you on your toes.
All of the very best.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Ruda.
As your daughter grows up, you find new patterns and new ways.
Thank you. Thanks, Ruda.
Thanks for the visit.
Yeah, such a pleasure. Thanks for interviewing me.
Until next time, you go well.